All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And also honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect and are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. All right, so today I wanted to talk about something that was interesting to me. I was listening to one of these podcasts I listened to, and the host of the show had made a statement, and he said that wisdom is the understanding of underlying principles between things, right? And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he didn't he said it a little more profoundly than that. But the point was sound, and I wanted to talk about it in the scriptures. Because basically what he was saying is, um, wisdom is understanding the analogies of things, right? How things metaphorically go together, and the scriptures use a lot of metaphors and analogies and similes in a lot of different instances, right? And I personally love to use analogies, and I used to think it was a deficiency, right? That I was using analogies because I couldn't understand stuff. Sometimes I'll use an analogy to explain something, and the people that I'm talking to think I'm patronizing them, but I'm not. I just do that because it helps me to understand what I'm saying. It helps me to build what I'm saying. And again, like I said, I used to think it was because I couldn't understand things, and I had to use analogies to understand certain things. But I learned as I grew in the truth that it is a gift from the Heavenly Father, right? We are able to understand prophecy. We are be able to understand the mysteries that are written in the scriptures. Matter of fact, let me that made me think of this. I think that's Proverbs 1. Give me a second here. Um, I think am I overlooking it here? Here it is. This is I'll start at 5. This is Proverbs 1 and 5. It says, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings," right? So we're able to understand these mysteries and these prophecies through the gift of the Lord, but because they're analogous to other things, right? The reason why we're able to find out that Babylon is America uh, is because of it was being called Babylon metaphorically, right? But the characteristics were given, right? The underlying principles, going back to what this host of this podcast said, were sound, and that's how the Lord was able to. That's how the Lord revealed to us um, that Babylon, in most cases in the scriptures, is talking about America. Matter of fact, let me go from there. I'll go to Isaiah 47. This is Isaiah 47 and 1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Right. So when you think of America, right, it's known as a woman, right, a tender and delicate woman, right. Stand beside her and guide her, right. It's always been heralded as this innocent woman, right? But this scripture here in Isaiah 47 says that that woman would be exposed, right? So we were able to put those two things together by way of analogy or by way of metaphor or simile, right? Um, so I looked up those words, um, and I want to give the definition of them really quick, and then I'll get into the scriptures I got pulled up here. So this is the definition for the word analogy. Um, I like this definition better, but I'll read them both. It says a comparison between two things, typically for the purpose of explanation or clarification, right? A correspondence or partial similarity, a thing which is comparable to something else in significant respects, right? Let me read this one here. It says, analogy is a cognitive process of transferring information or meaning from a particular subject to another, or a linguistic expression corresponding to such a process, right? So again, this is how understanding is given, right? This is how the mysteries of the scriptures have been revealed to us, right? As a matter of fact, let me let's do this. I think I'm spelling it right. Yeah, this is Revelation 3:18. It says, I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Right, a part of that eye salve is, understanding these things. Right, like for even this whole verse, right, it's talking about being clothed. Right, so your shame and nakedness does not appear. Right, it's not actually talking about actual nakedness. Right, but it's talking about being clothed with the spirit, man, being clothed with wisdom, right? Let me get into some of these scriptures that I pulled up, and hopefully this is edifying. All right, so this is Matthew, and I'll start at 1. um this is Matthew 13:1. It says, the same day went Yahushua out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, right? Saying, behold, a sower went forth to sow. So I didn't look through this. I should have did it, but I want to look up this word parable.
Strong's G 3850, parabole, parabole.
Parabole. It means a placing of one thing by the side of another. Juxtaposition, as of ships in battle. Metaphor. A comparison of one thing with another, right? Like likeness, similitude, an example by which a doctrine or precept is illustrated, right? A narrative, fictitious but agreeable to the laws and usages of human life, by which either the duties of men or the things of the Most High, particularly the nature and history of the Most High's kingdom, are figuratively portrayed. A parable, an earthly story with a heavenly meaning, right? So it's what the man said in the podcast was sound, right? Um, this is how understanding is given, right? And matter of fact, let me go here because I thought this was good too. This definition here, was it this one? Yeah, this is the one. It said this is the definition for simile. It says a figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, used to make a description more empathetic or vivid, right? So let me look up this word empathetic real quick because I want to. want to show something later on here. Search empathetic. Showing or giving emphasis, expressing something forcibly and clearly, right? Vehement, firm, wholehearted, forceful, forcible, energetic, right? Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's look up the word empathy, because I want to make this point. The ability to understand and share the feelings of another, right? That's going to be important. Matter of fact, since I read that, let me see. Let me see what I got left from this one, and then I'll say whether or not I want to go to that next one. Let me go back one more. Sorry. Yeah. Let me finish this one, and then I'll go back to simile again and empathetic, and then I'll make the point. Um. Did I? Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't. I was up here a little bit. Where did I leave off? Right here, verse 3. It says, "And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some in hundredfold, some 60-fold, and 30-fold." Right. So it says, "Who hath ears to hear, let him hear." So the point I wanted to get was in 10 and 11. But what I wanted to say is this parable is in reference to how people receive the word. Right. It's talking about, seeds being planted. Right. But much like seeds are being planted, right? Also, the scriptures talk about another seed, the mustard seed, and how faith grows in that way, right? Because the mustard seed is one of the smallest among seeds, right? But it grows one of the biggest vegetation from that seed, right? And faith works the same way, right? Where it could be the smallest thing, but it grows into the largest thing, right? For instance, um, what can I use as an example? A small seed being planted in the spirit. Um, for instance, Paul, right? Paul had a small seed planted in him, right? Which he had a fervence from that seed that was planted in him. He thought that the law was everything, right? And then when he got knocked off the horse, that small event that happened to him, right, created this immense ministry where he traveled all over the known world to spread the word of the Lord, right? So a small thing turning into a large thing. That's why the mustard seed was used as the example, right? So in this parable here, the seed is the same thing, right? Some seed falls on the, like, on the pavement, right? And the sun scorches it and burns, right? Because it's not able to take root into the soil and grow roots strong enough to allow it to stand as it grows, right? And the same thing happens to you in the truth. Some people come in, they hear it for a little while, and they go away, or they hear it for a little while, and somebody comes and pulls them out of it, right? So this is an analogy, right, or a metaphor to how how certain people receive the word, right? But this is the point I want to get to here. This is Matthew 13 and 10. It says, "And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but unto them it is not given," right? And I had to first break out of thinking that thinking in this way was a deficiency. But then I had to come to the realization that not everybody understands these scriptures, man. And I used to try to give it to them and give it to people, and most people don't understand the purpose of an analogy or a metaphor or a simile or a parable. People don't understand the principle of it, right? Case in point, to give an example of what I'm talking about, years ago, I was talking to this young lady, and we were talking about the relationship between men and women and how men and women are different, right? And the function of a man being with more than one woman, right? And her defense was, well, if men can do it, then women can do it too. So I gave an analogy, right? An analogy that I had heard before, but it was sound to make the point. And it was that when you have a lock, right, that can be opened by any key, what do you call that lock, right? And we agreed that it was a bad lock. If you locking your goods up that any key can open, then it's not much of a lock, right? But if you have a key that can open one key that can open any lock, what do you call that key? You call that a master key. And she's like, no, 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 that's not the same. That's not the same. And it is. Principally, it is the same, right? In that when a woman can be unlocked by any man, right? This is a worthless woman. But a man who has the capacity to unlock many different women, right? That he is a master at it, right? So the principles are the same, but she couldn't understand how those two things mesh together, how those two things connect. And I had to learn over time that people don't understand because we'll be out there speaking, let's say on the highways and byways, and somebody comes to argue the scriptures, right? And we'll tell them that it's only for Israel, and we'll go through how the Israelite foreigners came about, right? And we'll go into prophecy and what's my favorite scripture I like to go to, Hosea, the first, second, and third chapters. It pretty much lays it out how uh, the Israelites, our people, would be scattered through all these other nations, and through that scattering would take on the customs of these other nations. And I always would say, like, it's so obvious. How do you not understand what it is we're saying? But uh, as it says here, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but unto them it is not given. Not everybody can understand. Not everybody can grasp these tools of wisdom, right? So what I want to do now is go back to the word simile, right? Because um, what's a simile was used in the case of King David when Nathan um, came at him for what he did with Uriah's wife, right? So let me read this definition again. It says a figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, used to make a description more empathetic or vivid, right? So I looked up the word empathy again, right? It said the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, right? So why is that important in this case, right? Where is it? Where is it? Right here. All right. So as the story goes, as most of us know, King David, committed adultery with a man's wife, right? And if my memory, let me go back. I want to see something really quick. Bear with me for a second, because I think Nathan was even afraid to tell. Um, no, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. I thought it was. I thought it was written that he was afraid to come to King David. But let's read this. Let's read this. This is an example of a simile, right? So this is 2 Samuel 12:1. It says, and the Lord sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, there were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up and it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock, of his own herd, to dress. Let me start over again for the fourth verse. It says, "And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come in." Right. So this is a story that Nathan made up, right? But he made it up so King David could see the depth in which this crime was committed, right? Because if he hadn't, right, David wouldn't have understood it with the same veracity, right? Right. So that's in the importance of a simile, right? Even when you're like when I'm talking to, and this is just a life lesson, right? When you're talking to your wife, or when you're talking to your children, right, or you're talking to, I don't know, a friend who you work with, or whatever, a lot of people don't see things the way you see them, and you can't really expect them to. So what's important to do is to try to, and I still haven't mastered this. This is one of my favorite scriptures, by the way, because of the level of wisdom that Nathan had to be able to tell David something in a way where he would have the passion needed to understand what he did, right? I still haven't mastered that, but if there's certain times where I get good at it, and I can get my message across. But like again, when you're talking to people around you, they're not going to understand it the way you understand it, and they're not going to feel about it the way you feel about it. So a simile is important to get them to empathize, as it said in the definition, with you, right? So reading on, it said, "And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, As the Lord liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die. And he shall restore the land fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said unto David, Thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord power of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house, and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of the son of this son. For thou didst secretly, didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. Right, and here's the point here. It says, And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, The Lord has also put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. So he he felt it, right? He felt it in that simile, got him to have the passion that he needed, right, to show what he did was wrong, and then Nathan revealed it to him, right? So that's the an example of a simile, but there's other examples in the scriptures, right? I wanted to go to there was a reason why I had Galatians pulled up. What's this in Acts? Right. So even understanding was given to Peter, right, in regards to the Israelite foreigners, by way of an analogy, right, or a metaphor, that was sent to him in a dream, right? I think I'm having deja vu. Either I did this show before or I'm having deja vu. But anyway, um, um, so so as you know, Peter had a dream, and in his dream, there were animals that were of the unclean sort, and the Lord told him to kill the animals and eat. And Peter's response was, "I have never eaten anything unclean," right? But it was revealed unto him once he awoke from the dream that it wasn't the animals that the Lord was speaking about, but it was the foreigners of Israel who had been scattered, right? So let me read a little bit of this. Um, I'm going to start at 17 since I gave a little synopsis of the story. So this is Acts 10 and 17. It says, now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry from Simon's house and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, there three men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. I wanted to go to where he talks about it to the other men. Bear with me for a second here. Bear with me, Salakia. Actually, let me do this. I think it comes up. Yeah. Yep. Let's go here and just jump right to it. I want to get some context here. So yeah, so I'll start at verse 24 just to jump down. This Acts 10 to 24. Excuse me. In the morrow, after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up. I myself also am a man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company, or come unto one of another nation. But the Most High have showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Therefore came I unto you without gainsaying, as soon as I was sent for. I asked therefore for what intent ye have sent for me. Right? So the dream was animals, right? It gave you animals that came down in a sheet, knitted sheet, right? And the Lord told him to eat these animals, right? But it wasn't actual animals that the Lord was giving him the message about. It was actual people, and he understood that, right? So that was a metaphor that gave Peter understanding of what was going on, man. And you're and really, there's a lot more that I have here. I didn't realize I was 28 minutes in. Maybe I'll do a second part to it, but I wanted to say this that um, our lives are analogous to things, right? The things that happen to you in your life, and when Elder Adama always says to us, always be spiritual. You have to think on the things that happen to you in your life, and find out what the Lord is saying to you, what the Lord is showing you, right? That's a part of wisdom. It's a part of how we grow, and especially now in this time, right, where things are getting hotter and hotter and closer to the end. Like it's vital. It's of vital importance for us to pay attention, right? The scriptures talk about being circumspect, right? And this is a part of it. So I'm going to do a second part to this because there's a couple more examples. Um, but for sake of time, I mean, I don't want to keep anybody this long. But if you watched it and you were edified, I appreciate it. I hope you were edified. I want to give all praises, as always, to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rakach, Dash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honor and salutations to the elect. With that, I say shalom.